When we want something with a compelling reason why, we can do anything we set our minds to. But if we can't figure out why we want something, even if it's just that it feels right, then we are going to give up and lose every single time. Hey guys, welcome back to As a Second Language, the best place for advanced English learners that still don't feel like they are where they want to be with their English. In this video, we're going to be talking about motivation and how to find the right motivation that lasts in your language learning journey. And don't worry, if you're an intermediate to advanced level learner and you're looking to reignite that passion for language learning or re-motivate yourself, this video is for you too. And all of the tips that we touch on in this video can be applied wherever you are at in your language learning journey. On that note, for the best high-performance language learning advice to learn English or teach yourself any other language, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified every single week when I post a new video. Are you the type of person who needs a compelling reason to start something new? Or the type of person who starts something new but finds it really hard to maintain motivation? Well, either way, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the right motivation, the motivation that lasts, comes for your reason for starting in the first place. And you'll also have my 4 key questions that I use in my own life to assess the things that I think I want to do and ask myself if I really do want to do them by matching them to what the purpose is that I started those things or wanted to do those things in the first place. So, in TED's list of the 25 most popular talks of all time, there is a talk called How Great Leaders Inspire Action by Simon Sinek. And largely, the focus of the talk is about starting with your why. Simon is talking about business leaders and also leaders of other kinds. So I think he mentions Martin Luther King and the Wright brothers at some point, and he talks about how they, as leaders, stand out from everybody else. And he goes to a lot of effort to explain this. But I think that this applies to language learning. Not only language learning, but high performance and personal development. And I'll explain why in about 2 seconds. In the beginning of Simon's talk, he essentially draws this thing on a sheet of paper. I'm gonna show you, okay? He draws a big circle, and then a medium circle, and then a small circle. So it looks like a target, okay? And in the middle, he writes the word why, and then how, and then what. And he uses this to explain some things, but he calls this the golden circle. And I'm gonna come back to this, but I just wanted to draw it so you could see it first, okay? So essentially, the why is like our purpose, our beliefs, our cause, the thing that drives us. It's like very emotion heavy, okay? And then you have your how, and then you have your what. And your what is like very analytical things, very physical, very he's talking about businesses, so he talks about like their products versus like why they do what they do. But I think in everyday life, it's like material things. It's like what you're doing, the activities you're doing. And then this is like your purpose, why you're doing them. He proceeds to explain that companies like Apple and leaders like Martin Luther King and the Wright brothers all started with their why. And essentially, he kind of leads into the fact that the reason that they were so successful, the reason that they were such great leaders was because they started with their why, their purpose, right? Instead of focusing on things like their output, like what they were trying to create, or things like fame and fortune. And that's what leads me to how this is connected to language learning. When people start learning a language, they are really motivated for whatever reason. Whether that's they're thinking about the job promotion they could get if they learn English or a second language, or the schools that they could attend, or the people that they could meet, etc. Not to mention, the thought of speaking a second language makes us feel pretty cool. I mean, if spies like James Bond or Lorraine Broughton can speak 4+ languages, then language learning must make us pretty awesome. Everybody has a different reason. However, once we get started learning a language, even when we've technically learned all of the moving parts or the technical parts, like the grammar of a language, we start to realize that language requires a little bit more from us. And when we dig deep, we realize that aside from the grammar, not only do we need to know the formulas and how things are put together in order to speak and be understood, we also need something a little bit deeper. Things like courage, practice, effort, and everyone's favorite, consistency. But in order to get up and try day after day without getting discouraged, we have to have the right motivation to keep us going. We have to know what our purpose is. We have to know what causes we support and what beliefs we have about the world that learning a language will help us not only support, but achieve. In the next part of Simon's talk, he talks about how the golden circle is rooted in our biology. He actually takes his circle and he says, if you look at it kind of flat, like from a bird's eye view, this is actually the brain, right? So the what section of the brain represents the neocortex, or the part of our brain that does analytical thinking. And then the why part of the brain is what processes it. This is the limbic part of the brain. And the limbic part of the brain processes things like memory and emotion, things that we can't put into words, meaning we don't have a way to express it in language, right? It's things that we feel rather than things that we know and can express verbally. He then explains why the greatest leaders have so much success. And he essentially says that it's because they started with why, and they got people to believe what they believe. And then he says, and he's talking to companies really, but he says something really cool. He says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he gives a whole example with Apple that I am not going to go into, but it does lead me back to language learning and an accusation of my own that I'm going to make that I am very excited about. And that is, people don't stay motivated because of what they are doing, they stay motivated because of why they are doing it. And I stumbled a little bit there, so I'm gonna re-emphasize because this is a cool point. People don't stay motivated based on what they are doing. They stay motivated based on why they are doing it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I love learning languages. For me, I'm motivated because I really do love the process. But that is precisely my point. You love doing it. The emotion you have attached to language learning is one of the strongest emotions of all. So no wonder you are able to stay motivated. But for the rest of us, most of the time, learning a language is not a hobby or something we are doing just for fun. Usually, we are learning a language as a stepping stone in our journeys. Learning a language will help us open new doors and welcome in new opportunities. But unfortunately, like I said before, trying to motivate yourself just in the what section of the brain is not enough. Sure, having external motivators can help, like wanting a better position at work or wanting to move to a different country, but the right motivation comes from within. It comes internally. The first step to cultivating motivation that lasts is to look inward and ask ourselves about our purpose and our beliefs. What do you care about more than anything else? What is the reason you wake up every morning and keep going? What sets your soul on fire? Leave a yes in the comments below if you have something like that and you know what I'm talking about. If not, maybe you haven't thought about this before. And if so, that is okay. Maybe right now, during this quarantine, is the best time for you to start asking yourself what that thing is that sets your soul on fire, and then go after it. Now, without further ado, here are my 4 questions for finding out what your motivation is for learning a language. Whether you are just getting started on your language learning journey, or you are needing to realign yourself with a deeper purpose, to remotivate yourself, don't skip these questions. Write them down and really sit with them, or meditate on your answers to find that deep internal connection. Here we go. Number 1, why do you really want to learn a language? Your answer doesn't have to be perfect here, just write what comes from your heart. Anything you write down is what needs to be written down. Number 2, what is your story of how you got to this point of wanting to learn a language? Number 3, why should you learn a language? And the second part to this question is, why must you learn a language? And there is a difference. The must part means, what emotion are you feeling that is creating this necessity? Why does learning this language feel necessary to you? Number 4, what future vision of the world do you want to create that learning a language will help you accomplish? Take some time to really go through each of these questions, to filter through and find your deep-seated reason or purpose. And once you've clarified what that reason is, I want you to remind yourself of it every day. Turn your why into one sentence that will, at the very least, remind you of all the other deep reasons you wrote down. Write it on a sticky note and put it on your mirror, set alarms in your phone, or turn it into your mantra that you repeat while you meditate. Now you know how to get the right motivation to learn a language that lasts. But what about the technical side of things? We've talked a lot about the why today, but what about the how? Well, I have written an ebook just to answer that. It is called How to Learn Any Language, and it walks you through the framework with 18+ tips on how to learn any language, and you can find it in the description of this video. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any updates from me. Now, friends, remember, fluency is subjective and you are doing an amazing job. Keep going, keep studying, and I'll see you right here next week at As a Second Language.